Blessings and peace, and welcome to the Ice Turner Experience. Something you can't define, but you can only experience with me. This video is upon the request of a good friend of mine, Man Cave Vlogging Channel. He posed a question to me as to why some women are intimidated by certain types of men. And being that I am a certain type of man, I can give it to you raw and uncut based on the brevity of my experiences. Now, the thing is with women, they can be vocal about, what they would like, what they want. Just like all of us, we want certain things until it actually shows up, and it can be outright scary. With some women, they have, they still have some play with them, still have some learning to do and some growing to do, just like us all, right? But for an example, they said they want a guy that takes the lead and commands respect until they're in the presence of that particular guy. And what it really is, it's the fear, because they want to change, they want to be better, they want to be more, they want to be assured, they want to be wiser, they want to feel even prettier. But when they get into the presence of a man of a certain caliber and quality and cut, it can be outright intimidating, because a lot of times they're not really ready. Now, we've all been in that particular space where we might have wanted something, but we weren't ready to receive it. So in a lot of cases, they're not ready to receive the kind of man that you are based on where they're at in their life. Then the other thing that they want a man that's mature, that's very clear and direct with his conversation about what he wants, and speaks up for himself. That type of man can be outright intimidating as well, because there's a fear factor. Because in a lot of cases, women are used to dealing with guys that they can control within the borders of their worldview. So when they deal with a man that takes them outside of that view and outside of that world, it can be scary, because it's the fear of the unknown. It's losing control or losing yourself. But they said you have to lose your life in order to gain it. So the woman, in a lot of cases, she's afraid to let go and lose herself into the man. Now, they all have the innate nature to submit, follow, and assist. But it's that fight, because in a lot of cases they've had to be, in a particular space to where they wasn't protected, so they kind of had to exercise some type of masculine energy. So this is what happens when they get into a place and it's like, man, you're talking about now I can be comfortable in being a woman. I can relax. That also scares them, because women aren't used to relaxing. Women aren't used to being able to sit still. They're not used to really taking, certain instructions. So it's a combo of those things. As far as meeting the guy that they actually want and need. Meeting the guy that is, authentic and is natural, it's scary. A guy that's mature, it's scary, because it's the pressure and the challenges, the change That's the reason why she can be intimidated. As well as, taking someone out of their worldview. Now, just think about it for a second. I'm gonna give you an understanding, fellas. Like, say for example, I take you and I put you in, in the middle of somewhere, in a third world country, where you're the only minority there, and with no book to learn their language, or no Rosetta Stone or whatever like that. You gotta learn it on the fly. That's gonna make you feel very uncomfortable. You're not gonna like that. You're gonna be scared, right? You're gonna be outright frightened. It's the same when a woman comes in contact with a man that is not like the common dude. Because the common dude is really led by his phallus. He's going to introduce what he has and what he can do for the woman, instead of introducing who he is, because he doesn't know who he is, so he can't offer that. That's the other thing. When you're a type of man that can introduce who you are, that means you know who you are. In a lot of cases, women don't really know who they are. They're really still trying to figure themselves out. So that right there can be intense. Also, to piggyback off of the last thing I said, as far as with women not being able to sit still. What I mean by that is that they're in a constant state of worrying or being over concerned. So, when they're presented, to a man that can cast away all those fears, and they're used to being in that pocket, although they're not comfortable in that, but they're kind of, it's a weird way to explain it. They're comfortable in that uncomfortability, in that space, even though it's not necessarily good for them. Now, you also got to think about this as well. A lot of times women tend to avoid what is right for them or what is good for them. That's why you see a lot of them, they kind of get into, excessive weight gain, drug usage, illicit sex, debt, et cetera, et cetera. Because it all triggers back to, with sitting still. Do they feel like, they can't sit still, but then they also feel as though they don't deserve it. So it's not necessarily the intimidation factor, it's the self-concept aspect, as well as that they feel as though they don't deserve you. So that what they'll do is they'll sabotage the situation. So that's another thing you also have to consider. It also comes from, not being able to sit still. And that comes from the, the excessive worrying constantly. That's where I think guys don't really understand where the shit test comes from, and they get more offended by the shit test when it happens. Even I get shit tested, And if a dude, that proclaims to be at a certain caliber says he doesn't get shit tested or he shouldn't get shit tested, he's selling you a bill of goods. Because you're going to get shit tested regardless. Excuse my French, but, it's the only way you'll understand this, right? You're going to be tested all throughout because of their panic state, their excessive worrying, And even though this is kind of off the topic of what I'm talking about, but this is just a jewel that I'm giving to you, is do not communicate all that is basically going on in your life that is actually wrong, because, women's minds are like a windmill. It's spinning constantly. So you can't really give her all the information or dump certain things on her lap, not in its just season. Certain things you kind of have to hold back to when she's ready. You have to build her up to that understanding. But anyways, the reason why, women can, the reason why certain women are intimidated by a particular man is because of what he commands, not what he demands. a foolish guy is going to try to press himself or press his agenda or press what he wants into a woman instead of impressing the woman. Okay? Because one thing, a woman doesn't really have a defense for is emotional IQ in a man. Because